Hi, I'm Aleu from Arcade 9, and you're listening to Mikey's Untitled Music Show.
Welcome to Mikey's Untitled Music Show, guys. Today, we're going to go ahead and dive into the musical mind of Aleu of Arcade 9. How you doing today, Aleu?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to, dive into that mind of yours, see where it came or how it got there. So, at first, could you introduce yourself, what you do in the band, and your other bandmates, please?
Yeah, my name is Aleu. I'm the lead singer and rhythm guitar for Arcade 9. I also write the songs. And then we have Mike on our lead guitar, we have James on our bass guitar, and then we have Will on the drums. That's who make up Arcade 9. And we are a pop punk, emo, nostalgia core band from Oakland, San Francisco area.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely got that nostalgic feel when I was listening to the music. Definitely, I loved "Emo Boy." That was probably one of my favorites. Like I just listening to that song, I was like, "Oh my God, that was me!" Yeah.
MySpace
But
days.
yeah, MySpace age exactly. But one of the first questions I like to ask is, can you tell us about one of your earliest memories that you have of you, using your creativity for your own music?
Yeah, music wise, I've always been kind of creative since I was a kid. I used to draw like comic books and sketches and art and paint and do all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to music, I think it was very influenced by movies.
Mm.
Um, I was in like musical theater in school and show choir and vocal ensemble is what they called it. And we would do musical presentations based on movies. So I know the one that sticks in my head the most is we did the music from Anastasia, the the movie
Oh,
Anastasia from the
yeah.
90s. And the teacher was teaching us how to do harmonies and melodies and like coming together and sing those songs. So that was kind of my first memory of really like wanting to put take some music and put it together and make something out of it. And then in that same class, that same school, they also had, we were playing different instruments and learning guitar and learning the xylophone and like the recorder and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I kind of had an early introduction to music and music theory and melodies and things like that.
It's funny that you say that. In seventh grade, we actually had, our electives. They were either like it was typing, drama, but one of them was like I forget what they called it, but it was pretty much like music appreciation kind of
Yeah.
thing. Where yeah, like you're in the class and there's maracas, there's triangles, all kinds of different little instruments, and we would sing like different songs like "Who Put the Bop." It was one of those songs. I forget who was that man? I'd like to take his hand. Like I forget what that song is called, but like that song was there, and we just like listen to different songs like that. So that's yeah, that's awesome. When so what was the first instrument that you picked up and like actually, I want to learn this instrument, or maybe the first time you kind of wrote a song as well?
Yeah, the first instrument that I ever like played where I was like, okay, I can play a song was probably the keyboard piano, because that's just what we were learning in school. But the
Mhm.
first instrument that I played where I was like, oh my gosh, I actually want to learn this and write songs and do all that was guitar. And that was when I was about like 13 or so, when I started playing guitar. And basically following along to like the easy chord, like Blink 182, Green Day songs and things like that, and just learning those, which was really exciting because they were so like accessible to learn.
Who is one of those? Or actually, before that, it's funny because I would get my music a lot from movies as well. Like one of the first, songs that really, hit me when I was young that I first listened to in a movie was Bohemian Rhapsody and the start of Wayne's World.
Yeah,
When I
yeah.
first listened to that song, I was like, "Oh man, that's crazy." Is there like another song other than maybe the Anastasia one that kind of, that sticks out in your mind?
That's funny because Queen is like one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band, and so I really like them. I can't think of a particular moment where a song came out of a movie or anything like that, but I've just always been around, like, been really interested in like media and music and movies and um, just kind of the artistic world. So I think I just
Mhm.
had a lot of influences coming in from different places. When I was really younger, obviously it was like Disney movies and trying to learn like Disney songs and how to play them and stuff like that. But then when I get older, I was getting into like some of the like pop punk uh, bands that were coming up and trying to learn their songs, like Sum 41 and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember when Sum 41 and like Simple Plan and
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
Charlotte when they first came out, like it was the first, yeah, that first pop punk, right? Avril Lavigne, like when she first came out too. Those were like kind of like the first bands that I listened to that weren't like Blink 182 kind of thing
yeah.
or Green Day, like you said, because those were really the first two bands that pretty much everybody that's into pop punk or emo music, like those are the first two bands usually that they listen to, and then it goes on from there.
Mm.
Um, when you, how did the band get formed?
Yeah, I originally started in LA. It was actually during the pandemic. I was starting, um, like getting serious about music again because we were just inside for the pandemic and I had my guitars and I was like, oh, maybe I'll start working on music again after like a long hiatus. And I was kind of thinking about making a Sum 41 cover band and I was just
Hmm.
playing all these Sum 41 songs. And then I was like, I kind of want to write my own stuff. So I ended up kind of coming out as like a solo project, and then I ended up getting band members so that we could play live shows, and we ended up playing a live show in like Pomona or something like that in LA. But then I moved back to the Bay Area and I didn't have any band members anymore. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? So I found band members out here in the Bay Area. So now we've established kind of a four-piece here in the Bay Area. And now we're like going to be touring LA and like kind of going back and forth and that kind of thing. So
What was that first jam session like that you got all of your, like you finally got your whole band in and together, and yeah, what was that first jam session like? Was it like, a little nerve-wracking because you've never, worked with this band before, these guys, or did it, just kind of click?
yeah, it was awesome because it just felt really cool because when you're sitting in by yourself and writing songs and playing for yourself, that's like one thing. But when you hear other people add their components to it and collaborate, it just becomes this so much bigger thing. So I was really like shocked and happy that, when we got together for our first kind of rehearsals and we started like fleshing the songs out and playing them together, I was like, okay, now we have a song. There we go.
And what was that first song that you guys first worked on?
The first song that ever came out as from Arcade 9 was Waiver, but that was prior to me having a band. Waiver, I just wrote myself and then I recorded it with a producer. So Waiver was just made just me and a producer working together. And then I had the band members learn Waiver so that we could play that one live. But that's
Okay.
technically the first Arcade 9 song that was released.
Yeah, can you walk me through how, what that creative process was when you first made that first original song? We'll get to like one that you made with the band later, but this first song that you made, and like how did you meet the producer, or how did you go about looking for what kind of producer that you wanted, and like writing the song? What was it like finally sitting down and saying, I'm gonna write this song, like my own song?
Yeah, like I said, we were by the time I started making Arcade 9 an actual project, we were kind of just coming out of the pandemic. And I just had a lot of time to like sit and think about things in life and future and things like that. And um, I was going through this kind of like transformative era. And I just started writing what I know, writing how I feel, and writing from inspiration. And I believe Waiver was one of those songs that I ended up writing at like 4 in the morning and just like kind of gushing all my feelings out there. And yeah, then around the time where I started first making music, the producer actually I guess found me on Instagram. I guess they saw that I was doing music or something, and then they DM'd me and were like, "Oh, do you want to work on something?" And I was like, "Sure." And it was really cool. Kind of
And
random.
yeah, was that something like you already had the song written out, and then you approached or like the producer had approached you and they said like, "Oh, well, how does this sound behind that?" Or like how did that work?
Yeah, I had already had the lyrics and the chord progression for Waiver like all done. I just needed him to add like drums and bass and sound effects and like keyboard and stuff like that. So yeah, I basically had the skeleton of it down, which is kind of like how I like to do things. I How I like to write is I like to have a skeleton down first and
Hmm.
then present it to the producer or the band or whoever, and then have people build upon it and make it better.
Yeah, and that's a big thing I'm always curious about is how songs, came about, how albums came about,
Yeah.
and just like yeah, that creativity that, I it's I like a band, not that I like a band more than I like an actual artist, but I like the thought of, you know, a bunch of minds like that, like they're all different, everybody's mind is different, everybody's musical like inspiration comes from other places, so it's kind of a little clash, I guess, when you guys come together at first. What was the first song that you guys started writing together as a band?
Ooh, I think the first song that we put together as a band was we have two new songs that aren't out yet, and it's one of those two songs. We have one called Atrocities and one called Error 404, Boyfriend Not Found. So
Mhm.
one of those two songs were the one. I think we might have even done them on the same day. I think we did them on the same day. I wrote the song, I had all the lyrics, I had a chord progression, and we went into the rehearsal space and I played it for them. And then I said, "Hey, what do you guys think the drums should sound like? What do you think like the lead should sound like? What should the bass sound like?" And then we kind of put that all together. So I think the answer to that question is there's two songs that we did at the same time in that format.
Oh yeah, and so the first song that I listened to was, I believe it's your new single, "Please Please Please." That's a cover of the is that the a cover song,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's the
It's
Sabrina Carpenter cover.
Yeah, it's funny because I was listening to it and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a really cool song." And my wife goes, "Oh, it's a cover, right?" Like, no, she's like, "Yeah, it's cool. It's a cover, right?" I'm like, "Oh, that's a cover?" And she goes, "Yeah." Like she's like Sabrina Carpenter, and she
Yeah,
played the song for me, and I was like, "Oh, oh, okay."
yeah.
I didn't know, but it reminds me of like but and I mean, I'm gonna say this, and I hope you don't take it wrong, but because like I really enjoy like the movie and like the music, it kind of reminds me of like Josie and the Pussycats,
Oh yeah.
like that vibe. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Like I was like, oh hell yeah, like that's cool. Like you don't really hear that kind of sound
yeah.
like anymore. You know what I mean? So I thought that
Yeah.
was really cool. What made you like go in that direction
Yeah.
rather than maybe, well yeah, in that direction.
Yeah, that's a good question. I love pretty much almost every genre of music. So I
Mhm.
love Sabrina Carpenter. I love like Chappell Roan and Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, all of them. So
Yeah.
I love like the pop stuff. And uh Taylor Swift was another person I was considering doing a cover of. But the Sabrina Carpenter album came out and she had Please, 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 and then she had Espresso. And I was thinking back to the like early 2000s, like the Pop Goes Punk albums that would come out,
Yeah.
where all these punk bands would like cover the pop songs. And I was like, let's try to bring that back. Let's like do a pop cover and just like kind of rough it up a bit. So it was between Espresso and Please Please Please, and I ended up going with Please 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 because it just sounds more emo.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I really enjoyed, like honestly I like that cover a little more than the original song, to be honest, just because I don't know, I just like it a little more. But yeah, I think that's really cool. It's like you totally like my wife showed me the song after and I was like, "Oh, that's totally different." Like that,
Yeah,
than that song, I would have like yeah, I mean, I didn't know the song, but like yeah, I would have never thought like, that's
yeah.
another that's another cover. Um, and let's talk about Emo Boy. The first thing that or the first line out of that song is ASL, and I just started busty laughing. Like I was, oh my god! Like the first like few lines, I was just like, oh my god, that's so funny. And like that was like a super nostalgic like song, like definitely. And I asked my wife, I was like, "Do you remember what ASL meant?" And she's she goes, "What?" I'm like, "Your age, like your sex and your location, like where you're from, you know?" And she goes like, "Yeah, I wasn't really in those in chat rooms very much. I was all over 'em. There's nothing else to do."
Yeah, she had a wholesome childhood.
Yeah. But walk me through that song. Was it just like was that just like I want to find or I want to think about the most nostalgic stuff from that time, or like tell me about that song?
Yeah, our vibe in general is kind of like I was saying, nostalgia core, kind of when we go to shows, we dress in like 80s and 90s outfits sometimes. But funny thing, Emo Boy is actually technically a cover too. It's a rewrite of a Machine Gun Kelly song called Emo Girl. And
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if you've heard that song, but he wrote a song called Emo Girl, and then he's singing about the emo girl. And then I kind of flipped it and I made all these like early 2000s references, and I made it kind of about the MySpace era emo boy. So that's a really fun one because I got to kind of put in all the like millennial Easter eggs and things, and people who listen to the song, they're like, if you know, you know.
Yeah, like one of the lines was, I could, I'm gonna take you off of my top eight, and if
Yeah.
I put you on your top, I was like, oh
Yeah.
my god, that was a great song. That was a really fun song.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Definitely. You guys, you guys, I see on your Instagram, you guys are always like playing live, or you guys are at shows. What was, um, like kind of what was one of the first shows that you played that you remember, and what was it like that first time you go up there with your band, and like there's these people out in the crowd, you know, they're like watching you, and I mean, yeah, we'll start with that for now.
Yeah, one of the first shows that we played that was really, really memorable. It wasn't our first show ever, but it was one of the first shows we played was Gilman in Berkeley, which is like a historic punk venue for the East Bay area. And bands like Green Day got their start playing there. So they're like very solidified in that culture of the East Bay.
Mm.
So playing Gilman, like my heart was beating. I was like, oh my gosh, we're standing where Green Day stood when they were teenagers. And
Awesome.
that was just such a big deal. And then we ended up playing it again um, a few months later. So we played it twice, but we were supposed to headline Gilman like a month ago, but I was sick, so we couldn't do it.
Ah,
But one
dang.
day we're gonna headline Gilman.
Yeah, for sure. And it's cool. Like it's cool seeing that, you know, like bands really active out there. I would for sure. I'm gonna get to one of your shows definitely,
Yeah,
or if
we
you guys
play
come.
a lot.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go out to one. It looks really fun. It looks like you guys have a lot of energy up there, and a lot
Yeah.
of, you know, your passion really comes out. It seems. Um, what, you know, you said that you kind of like stopped the like, or you didn't have a band like in between Arcade 9, and you know you had another band before. Like what made you kind of um like actually like say like what actually brought you out of your shell and said, you know, I have to make music. Like I have to do this for a living. This is what like my career is going to be. What was that final straw that made you actually want to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what the exact catalyst moment was, but I do remember there being a moment where I was like, I really enjoy making music. I was just making music to kind of keep myself occupied during COVID, but then there came a point where there was a snap and it was like, wow, I love this. I really want to do this. And I've been making music since I was like 13,
Hmm.
and I was in like garage bands and stuff when I was in high school, but I had never thought in my wildest dreams I could be like playing in front of actual people and like booking venues and like getting paid and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know exactly when that moment clicked, but it definitely did click probably somewhere around like 2022. I was just like, I want to do this as a job.
Yeah. No, yeah. And would you have any kind of advice to somebody who's maybe like on the fence? Like, I mean, if people for people that if that have already listened to the show, they're getting like they know like one of my things is just, if you don't start, like you like nothing will happen, right? Like if you don't start anything, nothing will happen. But like, I'm in my shoes, like kind of, not that podcasting is easier or anything, but just like I don't have to go out there and, find venues. I don't have to go out there and find, or sell tickets like that and stuff. Like, do you have any advice to a young artist or an upcoming artist that may have some kind of like doubt of whether they should be doing this or not?
Yeah. Yeah, the advice that I got that I was really good that always sticks with me is just like do something for your career like every day, even if it's just a little thing. Like, oh, maybe one day you just want to learn a new song on guitar. Maybe the next day come up with band names or song titles. The next day sketch out or draw up online like an album art or a photo art of what your single is going to look like. Just like make stickers. Like that's what the stuff I like to do. Like every little day, do one little thing to kind of progress where you are. So for me, I'm a very like I like being organized and like I love the booking process. I used to like own my own party booking company, so I'm really good with like emailing venues and being like, "Hey, like we'd like to put a bill together of these three bands and this band and this band." And then so that stuff is kind of fun for me, but if for people who they don't find that portion of it fun, just work on like the creative side and have something to put together to showcase to these venues or these clients or whoever. Because if you have nice pictures, have nice music up on Spotify, and have things to show in your like press kit, then you're already kind of like a step above a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. Come, like be prepared, right?
Mhm.
Like come with, yeah, like come with some. My boss would always tell me, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions, kind of thing,
Mhm.
So like if there was a problem going on, you
Mhm.
know, come to me with what you think we should do first, and if not, we'll fix it, kind of
Mhm.
thing. So like just yeah, like just make the dive, like keep going at it. Um, so one of the last questions I like to ask is, like, what has been the ultimate purpose of music in your life?
Yeah, I mean, music has always been a really big part of my life. Like I said, but even just back in school, like learning music for the first time and just being influenced by other musicians and movies. Like I'm I'm very sensitive to music, so if I hear like I'm really big with like movie scores. So when I hear a movie score that's really good, I like start crying and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's just so powerful." So I think music, I think that's the case for most people, is music is just like a powerful thing that comes into your life, and some people want to listen to music and just vibe and feel nice, and then some people are like, "Hey, I want to create that. I want to emulate that." So for me, it's been the latter. It's given me such a passion that I want to also create and hopefully create those moments for other people where they feel passionate about something that I made.
Definitely. And the last question I do like to ask, I'm not sure if you've spoken about this with your bandmates, or maybe you can give me just your personal example. If not, but what is Arcade Nine's like message, or what is Alu's message to the world?
Yeah, we pretty much just want to help in the resurgence of pop punk and emo. I remember being in college when the emo kind of died down, and I remember always thinking and praying and being like, man, I wish the emo era would come back. I wish like the scene hair and like all that emo stuff would come back, like the MySpace days. And then a
Mhm.
few years later, like they announced Warped Tour was back, and they announced
Yeah,
that like all these bands that broke up in the or the late 2000s were back together, and like it just seemed like the emo resurgence was literally happening. So I just want to help be a part of that and keep emo alive and keep the scene alive. I think that's I can speak for all of us when I say that, as we're just trying to keep that scene alive. And a lot of people, you say, oh, like rock music is dead. You don't hear rock music on the charts anymore and blah 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 blah. But like I think we can get it back into the spotlight.
Yeah, and I mean now you really don't need those charts anymore, right? Like now, as long as somebody's hyping up like another page or like another like genre, like another artist, like that's really all you need.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you do need that, commercial space, to go play shows and, be at venues and do stuff like that. But to maybe even just get the word out, you really don't need those charts in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I just, yeah, I think that's awesome. Like the emo revival is real, and it is coming back. And my wife and I went to the When We Were Young concerts,
Yeah.
the last three, and yeah, and like Census Fail, like maybe like five, no, maybe like 6, 7 years ago, you started seeing Census Fail come back. You started seeing Taking Back Sunday a little more. You started seeing like we watched Under Oath, and I guess they haven't played in so long. And we watched Sailsin, like their original. They played their first album, and
Yeah.
it's just it's beautiful to see coming back. And it's beautiful that where I work, a lot of people, there's a lot of younger people like that work there as well, and it's nice to see me singing a song and then somebody's, oh, I know that song, and they're like
Yeah.
super young, and I'm like, fuck yeah,
Yeah.
like that's awesome, like you like my music, or the music that I grew up to pretty much,
Yeah.
so I can't wait for it to be back and come back. And it's so funny when you go to these like older emo shows now also, because everybody's just trying to like chill and good vibes. And even in the mosh pits, you see like they're not really moshing really, like or like maybe like the first 3 minutes a mosh pit will open up, and then everybody will just be tired, and and it'll kind of
I've
stop.
seen some pretty feral mosh pits lately.
Oh really?
I guess it depends. I guess it depends on the band.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Or I guess even like I mean the people who are just starting it. But yeah, I just like I can't wait. I'm glad that it's back and it's coming back strong, and they're starting to come out with new music. So that's uh that's really great. So Alu, can you tell us where we can find your music, please? And if you have any, projects coming up in the future?
Yeah, Arcade 9 is our songs are available on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere you listen to music, YouTube. We have some music videos up on YouTube that you can check out. On Instagram, we are Arcade 9 Band. And our Instagram pretty much shows all our upcoming shows that are coming up and our live events and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, thank you again, Alu, for joining us on Mikey's Untitled Music Show. I really appreciate it. We'll definitely do this again soon, and hopefully we can get you in person as well as this in musical journey. You're following along with my musical journey as well. The start of this page. So I really appreciate you for doing this for me and for doing this for the show. And I can't wait to see Arcade 9 blow up, because I'm sure you definitely will.
Thank you so much.
And of course. And with that, everybody, like we say at the end, be safe and be great. Remember, we share because we care.